Before the red carpets turned into humanitarian stages and the wild child became a world-class mother, Angelina Jolie was the most dangerous woman in Hollywood. She didn't just act, she bled, she rebelled, and she lived out her private chaos in front of a world that was terrified of her honesty. From blood-stained wedding shorts to psychiatric wards, discover why the real story of Angelina Jolie is even weirder, darker, and more legendary than you ever imagined. An explosion of identity in a wild golden era. Before the world knew her as an elegant humanitarian, Angelina Jolie was a walking explosion of anarchy on the red carpet. She wasn't just an actress seeking fame, she was a storm that refused to be tamed by Hollywood's rigid norms. We are talking about an era where she wore her husband's name in her own blood and kissed her brother in front of the world's cameras. During this time, Jolie didn't just act, she lived in a state of raw, unmanaged honesty. Through her roles in Gia and Girl Interrupted, she gave a voice to a generation of women who felt like they were too much for society. She turned pain, addiction, and madness into a form of art so visceral that even today, the image of Lisa Rowe remains saved in millions of inspiration folders for women who want to reject boring societal rules. Childhood wounds and the shadow of a father. The characters Jolie portrayed were not born in a vacuum. They were manifestations of a childhood she never romanticized.
As the daughter of an often absent John Voight and a fiercely loyal Marceline Bertrand, Jolie grew up in deep emotional uncertainty. She described herself as a dirty punk in her teens, hating a modeling world that measured every inch of her body like an object. This discomfort manifested in extreme ways that pushed the boundaries of convention. To understand Jolie's roles in her early 20s is to understand that when you watched her play a woman on the edge, she wasn't pretending at all. She brought her insecurities, her hatred of authority, and her hunger for freedom into every frame, creating performances that felt more like a documentary of a soul than mere professional acting. Blood weddings and sexual audacity. At 20, Jolie married Johnny Lee Miller, not in a traditional white gown, but in black rubber pants and a white t-shirt with his name written across her back in her own blood. "It's your husband, you can sacrifice a little to make it special," she remarked casually. Shortly after, she fell in love with model Jenny Shimizu and openly admitted she probably would have married her if she hadn't already married a man. In 1997, such an admission was considered career suicide in Hollywood, yet Jolie simply shrugged and let the tabloids write whatever they wanted. She refused to be a well-behaved girl, refusing to separate her private chaos from her public work.
Presenter TV host. Her bravery in living without a filter made her an icon for those suffocated by gender expectations, proving that being true to oneself was far more important than popularity. Gia Karanji, the art of self-destruction. Jolie's role as Gia Karanji, America's first supermodel who died of AIDS, was a multifaceted revelation that was both breathtaking and terrifying. Jolie initially turned down the role because she didn't trust the industry to handle the issues of drugs and AIDS with honesty. When she finally agreed, she immersed herself so deeply that she refused to speak to her husband during filming, claiming she was alone, dying, and gay. The iconic scene behind the chain-link fence, performed entirely nude, was not mere provocation. It represented a desperate desire to feel alive in a commodified body. Through Gia, Jolie displayed the fragile side of a fame that destroys. The performance won her a Golden Globe and a SAG Award, but its impact was greater. A generation of women found their identities through an HBO screen. Lisa Rowe, the honestly brutal sociopath. Girl Interrupted was supposed to be Winona Ryder's star vehicle, but Angelina Jolie's Lisa Rowe stole the world's attention. Lisa wasn't a typical sociopath. She was a woman who refused to pretend to be well for the comfort of society. She refused the pills, the therapy, and the language of feminine politeness forced upon women in the 1960s.
Presenter TV host. Jolie prepared for the role by spending a week in real solitary confinement to understand the horror of psychiatric institutions. On set, she maintained a cold distance from Winona Ryder so her sociopathic edge wouldn't be contaminated by human empathy. What Jolie understood about Lisa was that she wasn't crazy, she was just incredibly honest. This brutal honesty is why she was locked up for 8 years, a powerful metaphor for any woman who has felt pathologized just for being brave. The Oscar and the kiss that shook the world. The peak of this wild era occurred at the 2000 Oscars, where Jolie appeared in a long black gown dubbed succubus chic by the media. She won Best Supporting Actress, but her speech professing love for her brother and their kiss at the afterparty triggered a global media firestorm. The world didn't know they had spent the previous day at the hospital with their mother, who was dying of cancer, or that weeks earlier, Jolie had been placed under a 72-hour psychiatric hold for a nervous breakdown. The tension between her massive success and personal tragedy created a dark, mysterious aura around her name. She was an Oscar winner, visibly shaking, a grieving woman accused of being a vampire or a devil doll by a press hungry for scandal, proving that Hollywood was never ready for emotions that were too pure. Billy Bob Thornton and the Eucharist Romance.
Jolie's meeting with Billy Bob Thornton on the set of Pushington sparked an affair that famously ended Laura Dern's engagement. Their 2000 wedding in Las Vegas was done in faded blue jeans and tank tops, far from the glamour of movie stars. Their most famous symbol of love was a locket containing a drop of each other's blood worn around their necks. To the public, it was proof of madness, but to them, it was a deep romance, a ritual akin to the Eucharist, sharing blood to unite two souls. Jolie never employed a publicist to polish her image during this time. She allowed herself to be called a vampire or an addict without defense. Her unfiltered authenticity was shocking because she didn't try to be liked. She only wanted to be loved in the most substantial and dangerous way, even if it meant becoming public enemy number one. The essence of Angelina's Dionysian appeal. Critic Camille Paglia once wrote that Jolie was one of the few celebrities with a complex psychic life and the animal energy of Ava Gardner. Jolie wasn't just beautiful, she was a Dionysian woman whose body and face were monuments that generated storms rather than just attracting the male gaze. In this era, her beauty didn't aim to please, it aimed to express an uncontrollable desire. She represents the last time a young woman in American cinema was allowed to be completely uncensored in her appetites. She didn't apologize for her fascination with knives, blood, sex, or family bonds that confused strangers.
She was the missing link between classic freedom and modern censorship, a woman who used her monumental features to generate an energy that was both destructive and liberating for anyone watching her. The beauty blueprint, dark eyes or red lips. Jolie's aesthetic essence in this era was crafted by makeup artist Janine Schreier and hairstylist Emmanuel Miller. Her legendary beauty philosophy was practical and has lasted for decades. Do either dark eyes or red lips, but never both. Because her features were already so full and prominent, Jolie knew that over-decorating would make her look like a clown. In Gia, she showcased an effortless look with long, unwashed hair and a subtle smudge of warm brown on the lash line. As Lisa Rowe, she used messy raccoon liner to show an honest exhaustion rather than glamour. Her ultimate secret was that she never tried to look pretty. She let her face be a canvas for her emotions. This made her impossible to stop looking at, as her beauty never felt forced. It emerged from her courage to ignore expectations. The legacy of an honest disaster. By any conventional metric, Angelina Jolie at the turn of the millennium was a disaster. She lied, she broke up engagements, and she committed acts considered taboo. Yet, the two films she made in the middle of that chaos remain the primary reference points for young women today. We don't share her humanitarian speeches to explain who we are. We share clips of Lisa Rowe refusing fake politeness.
This proves that Jolie wasn't just playing characters, she was refusing to lie about the pain of being alive. For a generation told that being themselves was embarrassing, Jolie's refusal to accept the deal was a sign of hope. You don't have to wear blood or marry in Vegas. You only have to stop hiding the Lisa Rowe inside of you. That is the enduring legacy of Angelina Jolie's wildest and most honest era.